5, 4, 3.
Well, welcome everybody. What's we're back. We're the sixth installment of the KOR. So still fresh. We are having a conversation today with Carlee Loft. She is, I would say, I wanted to have you on. I was telling you before, I said, I think that you're an interesting person to talk to about a lot of I find there's like a lot of different things too that you're able to talk to, not just like one specific thing. Like, you're not just set to be like, oh, you're just going to talk about this one issue or one issue. I think like we've had conversations before in the past and we've been able to like move and kind of like diverge into different topics, and I thought it'd be good to have you on because I think also I would say, I mean, you can introduce yourself, but she's also, from what I've perceived, it's interesting to talk to somebody who comes at it from a different point of view too. You see it from everybody has a different point of view for different political or environmental political topics, which is like
all meshed together.
Yeah, all meshed together because it kind of like they all end up meshing together in some way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I think it's gonna be an interesting conversation. I think it's gonna go different places. But yeah, so if you want, you can introduce yourself. Go for it. It's
sure.
Up to you. Yeah.
So I'm Carlee. Right now I work at the Kahnawà Environment Protection Office. I do policy and outreach. Before that, I was doing KCI, Kahnawà Collective Impact, doing youth-specific work.
Right, we work together.
Yeah, we work together,
yeah, we work together.
So what do I do outside
Yeah,
of
a lot of youth work, too. That's another thing, too. You've done a lot of youth work.
Mm-hmm. Craft stuff. I like doing silver work, bead work.
You've been to COP, a lot of... Were you at 2, 3 events?
Oh, my gosh. How many COPs have I been to now? 3? 3, which is the quick aside. COP is the Conference of the Parties. It's basically an international gathering under the UN at different countries. They're focused on the environment or specifically climate change, and they're now at COP 28.
28.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, where's the next one?
The next one, I'm not sure where they're going to host it. It just happened in Dubai, and I always joke. I usually say, we're at COP 28, and yet nothing has changed.
Right.
So there's that. I come at things about the environment, youth engagement. I don't know. I think like as a goal, as a person, the only big goal I have in life is really to live as a kind person and to make some kind of impact for the better. And I think that guides a lot of what I do, and I guess why I go into so many different topics.
Yeah.
It's wherever I feel I'm needed or wherever I feel I have skills that can contribute.
Right.
So it's been a lot in youth work and environment work.
Yeah. Which is kind of, now that you're, maybe, that's probably one of the reasons why we get along, because it's kind of the similar, I guess in a similar way, it's like you want to contribute back to in some positive way, which is like, well, right now you said you're at the environment office too, right? That's it's got to be what do you do at the environment office?
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
My day to day. Yeah, I can get into that for sure.
Yeah,
no, when I first started, the title policy and outreach seems pretty vague. It's like pretty wide, or like, what are we talking about in terms of environmental policy? Because we don't necessarily have comprehensive environmental policy in Kahnawà. So that's something I was like, oh, cool. It's kind of open.
Right.
And that will be part of my role in the future. It hasn't been yet. I've only been there for under a year. It's going to be a year in May. But kind of leading into that, I was focusing more on the outreach side, which, what did we do first? It was the Creek Project, the North Creek Project. And honestly, I loved that project so much. Basically, the office had gotten so many people coming up to them as they were doing water sampling in the community, telling them, I'm happy you're looking at the creeks because this one, North Creek, runs through the community, also known as Wagadas Creek or Fagadas Creek, depending who you ask. People had so many positive stories about it and what it used to be and what it used to mean to them. So they ended up actually applying for funding, getting that funding, and then going, oh, dang, we need somebody who can do the people part of it. And that's where I came in. So I got to talk to people, get them excited about the project, which was basically, how can we bring the creek back? How can we improve the creek? How can we get it closer to where it used to be? Because it meant so much to a lot of people. So first I just would show up at community events and ask questions, and then later we ended up doing a few workshops and individual interviews. So we interviewed 10 different elders about the creek. And we're actually going to have a film screening happening April 10th at KOR.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, showing what we made, all the stories.
Perfect.
Yeah, like a little promo right there.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I didn't even know that. That's awesome. Yeah, well, you were out there too and about and interacting with all those in Fagadas Creek, as you say.
Any opportunity to hear stories is
that too.
Amazing.
From different elders about how they grew up. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you knew this, the prevalence of people eating frog legs
was a thing.
It was a thing.
Yeah.
They told me, who was it? It was Leo Daibo. He was saying, you know, the boys would catch them and the girls would cook them. I'm like, really?
Frogs?
Frog legs. They'd chop off their legs.
Oh my God.
Fry
Really?
up the little legs. Yeah,
I guess. I imagine, right? It's like you're hungry. You gotta eat something.
Yeah, it's like your kid.
The frog?
No, the frog.
Oh, your kid. Your kid's hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, kills.
Well, because they're not adults catching these frogs. These were kids. All the stories,
Okay,
like
that's true. Okay.
It's elders who are telling me these stories.
From there when they were young.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, another thing too, I wanted to, because I don't want to forget, but I know we were talking about it like just before we started recording, was the you were talking about that thing at that Dawson. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought that would be cool. I think people like to hear something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can loop all of that in.
Yeah,
so there's
sure.
a lot of these feel-good environment conversations, like, let's talk about what the environment used to be like and how we're excited to try and get that back. And at the same time, you have to think about what are the barriers to get that back.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about restoration, if we're talking about land back, if we're talking about bringing back cultural connections to land, there's so many barriers. And largely they're coming from outside influences. So, you know, colonialism, Canadian government, or even if you're looking at smaller logistical concerns, it's access to funding, because the government doesn't just give money away for these projects. You have to jump through 5 million hoops to get it.
Yep.
And that's something that they're working on. But what you were bringing up, this was a panel discussion that happened, panel discussion. I was invited to speak on a panel at Dawson. They were doing a film screening about a Indigenous woman from Brazil. She had made a documentary about illegal logging in her community and how, you know, she grew up in her community in the Amazon rainforest, and she left to become, I guess she was looking at becoming a lawyer, and she ended up getting into politics, and she went to COP, that UN event I mentioned, specifically to call out the governments, because you'll see, like, you see Canada, the US, all governments throughout the world show up to COP saying, I want to be green. I'm doing all of this for my country. And then you talk especially to the Indigenous people, and as everybody here knows, it's not the reality. What they're doing isn't the reality. And in this woman's case, you know, Brazil is showing up saying, oh, we're leading in this, we're leading in that, and at the same time deforesting the Amazon. And so that's her home, that's her family's home, and she went to COP to call them out on it. And that was the documentary. It was looking at her approach to environmental protection, and it also interviewed a man from her community too who took a different approach. And for him, he stays and he's a part of a group of men who are kind of like the warriors for them, and they actually would go out and confront the illegal loggers and kick them out of the territory. So it was about that struggle between, I guess, what we call inside strategy and outside strategy. And what that looks like for them. I think that's something that people can relate to.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, for sure, definitely. Especially here in, like we've talked about, like we talk about this community of Kahnawà being, you know, and I think that's like the one, like you mentioned land back being a thing, you know, talking about where we sit here as a community now in 2024 and going into the next like 10, 20 years, right? It's like we're not, there's not gonna, like, we're losing, our population's only getting more and more and more. And then you hear people like, you know, now it's a big conversation. It's like, well, how are we going to contend with that in the next 20, 25 years, you know? And how are we going to adapt, you know? And it's like, I'll be honest, that kind of stuff gets me very, like, it gets me emotional, because it's like, you think about, obviously, I mean, I know it's cliche, but we talk about like the 7 generations and that kind of stuff, but that's what it really is all about. And just, and all those other things too we talk about, because what it's all about is, it comes down to, if you really want to boil it down, and I said it was like that, it's about this world that we share everything with, you know, and like everything from the ground up is supposed to be your, in somewhat something of your, as close as your sister or your brother, you know, like that's what those things are supposed to be. And it's like, yeah, I guess it's a reason why too I thought, you know, you're a good person to have on, because we, like, you know, talk about that kind of thing, and it's important for people to hear, because like, land back, right, we're like, how are we gonna, you know, we see these things that happen in the community, things that we get very angry about. We get very angry about when we see something, but there's a lot of things that we don't see, and they're happening, and nobody's saying anything about it. I'm not gonna say specifics, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of that going on, and yeah, that's hard to deal with too. You know, like, and how do you deal with that? You know, and I'm not asking you. I'm just like, I guess I'm just putting it out there. You know, like.
Well, I heard something that was actually really helpful to me last night. I was I was listening in on a panel that was about the intersections of, like, the Palestinian liberation movement and environmental crises. And it was Ellen Gabriel and a bunch of other activists were on this panel talking about, you know, those intersections and how they see them working, not together, but how each issue is kind of parallel and the way that they intertwine. Right. And that's a conversation for another day.
That's a
but
whole, well, we can totally get into it.
But what I heard, this one activist, you know, she was talking about what she wants to see in terms of action for Palestine in the future, and like, how can you organize, and what should the individual like person be doing. And she stopped and she goes, you know, before I get into that, I just want to acknowledge that what we're trying to do is stop a genocide, and that is huge. That's not a small task. It's monumentous. And in the face of governments that aren't doing anything and aren't listening. And I think the same can be said about environment and climate change. You know, we're trying to stop climate disaster, and that's a huge topic, you know.
Right. It is a very big one, for sure.
So why I say that is, for anybody who's listening, and also like me and like you, gets a bit anxious at the idea of, what can I do? What can I do to stop this? What should everyone else be doing? Is there enough time? All those really anxiety-provoking questions, is to take a breath and remember that it's never going to be one individual who can do it, because it's too big. Yeah. And so what can you do with what you have, where you are, with what you know? That's what I try and think about.
Yeah, exactly. That's to put it, you know.
Yeah, and that's it, to bring it all back. For example, me, what I have, what I can do, what I know, I like to talk to people. I like to organize community things. That's what I got to do through KCI, is organizing like youth gatherings. And now what I get to do at KIPO is, you know, facilitate projects where I get to hear people out and listen to them and have conversations and facilitate that. And that's where I've kind of found my role. And I think, you know, I encourage anybody who's curious about these topics is to find where their skills are. Right. And then know that contribution is good. Like that's enough.
Find a way to channel it into that.
Or if you see things that make you mad, like, I'm happy about that. Yeah. Like, lean into that. Like, why are you angry when you see this? Why is this breaking your heart, you know? And where else is that happening? Like you said, there's things that are happening that we don't see.
Right.
Some people may be familiar with Northvolt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a battery company. I believe it's out of, I want to say Switzerland, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me.
Yeah.
But they're a battery company, and they're going to be putting up a battery plant in Quebec along the Richelieu River.
Yeah, you were saying.
Once known as the Iroquois River.
Yeah.
They're going to be filling in wetlands to do that. They've already started clear cutting, or they were going to start clear cutting, and there were actually activists from Montreal who came in, and they put nails into the tree, not enough to harm the tree, but enough that if you tried to cut it, it's not going to work. So that's something that's happening right now, and I don't know how many people know about that.
And you can imagine just how many other things are happening that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, and you want to like even go back and you even think about this whole issue just in the grand scheme of things, you know, like we all like to, like I was saying, but we're modern, like we live in this modern time, right? We're all kind of in one shape or form, right? Like you'll have the skeptics that'll be like, well, we're all contributing to this because we all drive cars and we all, you know what I mean? We all do this and though maybe some of that is true, there's also like, I think there's like a bigger picture, and there's a lot that I think that like don't just like give up on. I feel like when people do that, it's almost like just like it's like giving up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we can, you know, there's like this whole thing about land we're talking about. You know, we're talking about this place that we live, or this place that Kahnawà, you know, like when we were driving here, and I was just as we were getting ready to come on here, and I got myself thinking about as we were parked there, and I was facing towards Montreal, and what's the right there that's right in front of us that's sitting, that it was a constant eyesore to a lot of people, is the St. Lawrence Seaway. And like you think about that river in itself, like from back to like early 50s, it's only been getting smaller, and this has created such a social change for our people over a long period of time. You know what I mean? Like, and how do you get people to, I think that's what it is too. It's like you want to get people to see past their own individual realm that they live in, because that's what we've gotten to this point, I think, as a community. And I think all over the world, it's a lot like that, especially in the West. You know, it's Western countries and colonial countries. It's very like, well, you have this and that's yours, and you have this and that's yours, and it's like, for our people, it was like, you know, took a little while to get to that point. And I think like our community has a lot of potential. I think we're very strong, and we're very resilient and adaptive, and we're all these good things. It's just like, I think I think it's just people have to start really, really kind of talking about that kind of thing more and more, and being like, well, what am I leaving behind that's good, you know? What am I leaving behind that's meaningful, you know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've gotten to do recently, the Creek project, it hasn't wrapped up. We're still working on it, but at the same time, we've got a few things on the move. And one of the more recent projects is a conversation about protected areas.
Right.
And that came from a 2022 survey that KIPO had put out, asking community members a bunch of questions about environmental legislation. But one of the ones that stood out to me was they asked, how many people, or do you agree with the idea of turning certain common lands into protected areas? And I think 91% of 200 participants said yes. And so that kind of spurred this conversation where now I'm going and talking to different people in the community about, you know, their perspective on that. What does protected area mean to you? Because there's like an outside definition, and then there's what we could create. And why I bring this up is, during one of my more recent interviews, I had the privilege of talking to a bunch of people. I'm not going to name names. The report will come out soon enough. Not the report, but the share back will come out soon. But, you know, they were telling me that they felt that they've been out in the woods and watching the animals and saying, you know, they adapt faster than us. that the animals that are out on the land every day, living their life there, they're adapting to the changes in the weather faster than we are. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he says, they'll come out earlier. They'll start doing their things earlier than they used to. They'll change where they live.
Right.
And meanwhile, we're sticking with this individual way of living and not looking at it and saying, is this working for us, and adapting.
Exactly.
And mentioning that, we were always an adaptive people.
Yeah.
We were known for that. Like, that's how we survived, is adapting to where we were and what we had.
Yeah.
So,
like, look at like this place, like, we're close to one of a very pretty big metropolitan city. Like, you have to, you kind of have to adapt and but when you're talking about like these like protected areas, that's and how like when you said those other things change, right? And like remember we saw those the blossoms of the like, see how it's crazy how many, like, we're March 13th now, and like things are blossoming, and like, I mean, it might have happened before, you know what I mean? Like, I might have heard my father say, like, it's happened before. Still, that doesn't change the fact that it's a little bit, it's a little alarming. There's a little bit of like extreme weather happening more and more, and I'm kind of the mind, and maybe you are of the mind, maybe not, but like, I've seen like those, like a lot of like certain lilacs where I've seen were blooming, and different maples and stuff already starting to bud, and I'm like, I seen it, and I'm like, on one hand I'm like, that's alarming. On the other hand I'm like, okay, well, but it's happening, and I'm not gonna stop that. Like, it's already it's happening. Like, what do you at what point? But like, I like how you're putting it. It's like, we need to adapt with it, because clearly it's adapting. It's happening before our eyes. Like, we're seeing all these changes happen so fast, and it's like, are we going to be ready for something? If there's ever, I'm not like a doom and gloom type person, but if there's any serious environmental catastrophe or something, it's like, how are we gonna adapt? Or if we're all living in this little small area, high population, how are we going to adapt to that,
Or even, I mean, there's adapt to catastrophe. There's also just adapt to make better,
right,
like healthier choices for us and our mental well-being. I'm coming back to you mentioning that we're living in these really individualistic ways, and that isn't normal for us. And I think, sometimes it's hard to get people to break out of that, especially, when we're talking about environmental changes, when we're talking about being frustrated by what we see happening and wondering how we can make change. Like I mentioned about environmental issues being this massive thing, it means that it can't be tackled alone. And I think people already in the community are doing an amazing job. There's like pockets of people doing really amazing work to bring people together around like community gardens, language revitalization, and all of those things are connected to what we're talking about.
Right.
So people are doing it, but maybe, when I was talking to folks about the protected areas, I had heard a few times, that they wish we didn't need to have a conversation about creating a protected area, because they wish that we all just still followed our original instructions. Yeah.
And that's a whole thing. But I think it's a good thing to touch on. It's important. It's in this whole conversation. I mean, you have a situation like where, that's a tough one. Like, just trying to, you don't, how do I put this? You have, like I said, Kahnawà is so big. You're getting, and I think we talked about this before. We were saying like, we our own instructions, our original instructions, and though I do agree that we do need to, I think that we would need to, we're getting too big. I think in simple terms, the population is growing too much where we're going to need to start doing that But I could see what those people, though, that argument is. It's like, it's always in question is like, well, who's making that rule?
Yeah. Well, it comes back to what we said at the beginning, that inside versus outside strategy and what do you do? And I think it's a little bit, I was going to say it's a bit easier, but it's also way more dire and intense when you're thinking about that example from the Amazon.
Yeah.
For them, I told you that there was a tribe that they show in the documentary that has zero connection to the outside world. They don't have any connection. They won't even connect with the other indigenous communities that have a connection.
Yeah.
But what happens to them if nobody goes out and advocates in like this outside strategy, the politics of it? In Brazil, what was happening was excessive logging.
So the outside strategy is of like
politics, being involved,
the people who are involved
in the Brazilian government, in that context. And then in this context, it'd be, you know, when we talk about creating environmental legislation or protected areas, I know for some people it leans more into that, like, we're doing kind of like white people stuff. Which, fair.
It's fair. There's a validity there.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I know one of the conversations we've been having in these interviews is, how do we reconcile the fact that some of the damage happening to important environmental areas is happening faster than we can change people's mindsets? You know, because like ideally we'd love to just change people's mindsets and all reconnect to those original instructions and live that way. But what happens in the meantime?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's true. It's like that doesn't happen overnight. You know, it happens. It's a gradual change, and I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, but you're right. It's like then the question is like, well, how fast? You know, how pressing is this situation that we're in? But it's a lot of heavy stuff. Lots of heavy
light
stuff.
And breezy
for sure.
conversation here.
It's good though. I think that it's important that, again, and I think we even said it in the last podcast with my father and Tommy were here, but like I think it's good to put it out there for people. You need to, you know, because then you know, sometimes you feel like you're having this conversation by yourself, you know, and you're just like and you get a little bit like you can get a little bit disillusioned to the whole thing and be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, what am I gonna do? You know, but I think going back again too, I think everybody has a role to play. You know, I'm a firm believer that everybody has some form, way to give back to their people, whether it be, you know, in my case, I mean, we were saying it, but like I'm an artist, you know, and one of my things that I'm very passionate about, and a lot of ways it's for me to convey things, you know, meanings, and it's like that's my thing, and it's like I wouldn't want everybody to find their thing, and to like make it something that they can, you know, encourage other people to want to do like something positive for their nation, their people as a whole. That's what it's a lot about, I think, like getting people to just really care about their people and not like, maybe that's a little bit.
Well, I guess I feel people, at least when I talk to people, I feel there is a lot of caring and wanting to do something for our people. But sometimes it's trying to figure out what your role is in that. Like, what am I good at? What can I do? And like, for example, your art.
Yes.
Some people use art just for their own expression, you know, like they don't connect it. But you, in a lot of your themes, it's connecting back to the land, it's connecting back to culture, it's like pulling from history sometimes too, at least from when I've talked to you about your work. And that is a way of giving back. And I think people knowing that there's no wrong way to get involved too. I don't know. I know some people picture, that's also, I don't like when people call me like an environmental activist.
I'm like, I almost called you that when we started. But I was like, she's probably, maybe, I was like, it
evokes a certain image, you know?
Yes, it does. It's loaded. It's a loaded term, right?
Yeah, and to some extent, for part of it, it's, first of all, in caring about the environment and our land is just inherent to who we are.
Exactly.
And second of all, I think it also gives you this idea that you're supposed to be this like super charismatic. I get in front of camera, I give speeches.
And you have
and I am not that person.
Like, listen to me.
I have been that person, and it's fun when you're when you got the megaphone.
Yeah.
But
I've never used one before.
Would recommend. It's a good time.
Okay, it's on my list. But yeah,
Street
no.
blockade,
But,
get a megaphone,
yeah.
go for it.
But I know, I hear, but it, again, like, yeah, you're right. It's inherently, just by being Ungwahuma people living here, we are inherently have almost like your existence itself is political, and it's, you know what I mean?
Well, what's that line? It's my existence is resistance, and like that's true.
Oh, that's good.
And I think
that's good.
Yeah, that means the great.
I'm writing that down. That's good.
Puts it on a T-shirt, starts selling it.
Yeah, it's a good one though. It's really good, but because to be political means different things for many different people, you know, and it doesn't just mean that you have to do that kind of thing, which is why I think a lot of people think.
Or being like a purist, you know. I want to come back to something that you said about, you know, like we have cars, we drink out of sometimes not reusable cups, you know. That doesn't mean that you fail. That doesn't mean that you can't be a part of this movement. And I think hyper focusing on the individual actions is kind of where some people get caught up in all of this. Like, oh, to be caring about the environment, I have to focus more on whether I'm using my reusable cup or not. And like it does, that is important. I, like, once upon a time used to be the kind of person who could say, why should I have to do this when, you know, the U.S. military is one of the #1 global polluters?
Right.
Why should I have to do this when Canada is one of the, like, #1 tar sands creators?
Yeah,
you know, when you're looking at this global scale of what colonial governments are doing to the world, it's easy to be like, why should I do anything until you do? And I think there's truth in that. I think there's something really important in that, and that is I'm going to say something a little dramatic, but I heard it last night and it really resonated with me, which is like to recognize the enemy. And the enemy is more colonialism, it's imperialism. It's not your neighbor who maybe, or us who are using non-reusable cups right now. And that doesn't mean that we are not responsible, because we have our own responsibility too. And that, you know, that could mean next time I try and remember this. That could mean I speak out on these issues, you know? Balance, if that makes sense. Like, so number one, don't do an all or nothing thinking about your involvement in trying to protect our Mother Earth. And number two, recognize the bigger picture. Recognize, you know, what we're actually up against. Because when we say that environmental issues are this giant issue, it's not because the earth doesn't know how to do what it needs to do. It's because of all of those barriers, all of those colonial governments that want to just take. And it's up to us to recognize those patterns in our own life. That's that responsibility I'm talking about. Go back to our own ways, distance from those as much as we can, and start speaking out whenever we can. So it's such a big issue. I'm trying to make it sound simple, but it's not.
I know. It's hard to, you know, simplify it, right? Because it's not simple. It's not a simple topic for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of and you said you went to COP. You were at a COP, right? And how was that? Those are. So
I went the first time by myself, and it was a mess.
Which one was that one?
Oh my gosh, that was COP. It was in Madrid. It was 2019, just before COVID.
Spain?
Wild.
That's Spain?
Yeah.
Yeah, Spain. Yeah, Madrid, Spain.
The only person I sort of knew was Kenneth. Kenneth Deere.
Yeah.
I was introduced.
Shout out.
Yeah, great guy. Does amazing work. Yeah, he taught me a lot. He taught the youth that we ended up bringing to COP a lot. So that first time I went by myself, and I was knocked off my feet. I never felt more like I didn't belong in a space than when I was there. And it's because that whole space is meant to make you feel stupid. As a person who's coming with your own knowledge of your community, your history, and who you are.
Right.
You come in there, and it's these people who, they're negotiating for 2 weeks saying that they're trying to save the planet, but really they're just negotiating the bare minimum that they can keep making money. And you're supposed to go in and say, hey, actually, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And then you get responses of like, well, who are you?
Right.
What voice do you have here?
Yeah.
You can't even get into the negotiating rooms because of the badge you have. So part of it, that is, I think if you're getting more involved at COP, these like UN climate change conversations, you really have to, well, you don't have to, there's two ways. You can do this inside strategy, which is getting involved with the negotiating, getting involved with the Indigenous Peoples Forum. They do great work too, and they do a lot of important work that, for places like Brazil especially, who need more protection, it's more dire, it's more in their face.
Right.
That kind of inside strategy is super helpful because you can create legislation that can, I'm thinking like the woman in the documentary said, if we hadn't had a change in politics, if we hadn't had a change in president, we were on track to lose up to like 40% of the Amazon. And because we were able to move that tide, we stopped that. So I see the value in being in those spaces and getting to know politicians. It's not my avenue, because you can also take the side of being there and disrupting. That's more like hosting, I guess like mini protests or using the media that's there to tell a different story.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what other Indigenous youth were doing in that space. So in Madrid, I met many climate activists, Indigenous youth, climate activists. For those who are just listening, I'm doing like the ear quotations over that, but
climate activists.
Yeah, so that is to say, COP is a space where you feel the pressure of what we're talking about mixed with this really weird sense of distance from it. So on the one hand, we're talking about trying to stop global catastrophe, and you've got people from really climate vulnerable communities saying like, my home is going to be underwater in 10 years.
Yeah.
10, 20 years, who are trying to think of those 7 generations. And then you've got politicians who are, I use this example every time I talk about COP, but who are saying things like, we're going to argue with you over the difference between wording in a policy that says phase out fossil fuels or phase down. Now, why do you think they would prefer phase down?
No idea.
Phase out is too concrete. It means there's an end date. Phase down is open to interpretation.
Right. It can go.
Yeah. It's lower than last year.
It's lower and lower. It just gets lower and lower and lower.
You never have to actually stop.
Right. It just. Oh.
And that's the space. And
that's crazy.
And I felt like it was a really mind-boggling place, but I found a lot
This was your first
That was my
COP,
first
or
COP.
just in general? Because you've been to 3.
I have been to 3. So the reason I went, and I know if you're listening, you're like, if you hated it, then why did you go back?
Yeah.
So I went back because meeting other Indigenous people, especially young people doing amazing work, was so inspiring.
You connect with people.
Yeah, and I now have connections with people. We've done organizing. We made a zine, which is like a small magazine together. Me and a bunch of other Indigenous people from all over the world put this together and then used it to fundraise money for Palestine. So that's just one cool thing that came out of it. But the other part is, as much as I'm not necessarily an inside strategy person, I think of something Kenneth Deere would say, which is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have to show up. We have to be in these spaces. We have to show up as nations. And
That's a good way. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right.
And, I wanted to share that opportunity. So the next 2 times I went, I made sure I was bringing young people from Kahnawà with me. I think the first year we brought 3, the second year we brought 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it just gets getting bigger and bigger. But well, that's a very and the second one was where was the second one you went to?
So first one was Madrid, second one was Glasgow, and then the third one was Egypt.
Nice.
And then we were supposed to have a delegation to go to Dubai this year, but it didn't work out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenneth is good. He's but I like that what he said there about if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu.
And you can show up to that table in different ways.
Yeah,
you can
right.
show up with your table manners, or you can show up with let's
go.
Yeah.
you got to show up.
Exactly.
You got to show up some way, or else the world's gonna literally, as a menu, just gonna eat you up.
Yeah, I mean, not the most positive way to end.
Yeah,
but I mean, I guess it's also, you can't do anything about it unless you know about it, is another way to, you can't speak out against it unless you're there. And I think that in a fun roundabout way brings us back to the very beginning of our conversation, saying, you know, there's stuff we see around the community and we're mad about it. And that's important. And to show up with that, don't just keep it to yourself, but show up with it and, you know, try and do something constructive.
Yeah.
And recognize where your strengths are, your network is, because you can always do something.
Yeah.
Like this whole COP trip that I did, for the most part, I didn't do that as like someone gave me an opportunity to do it. Someone told me to do it. I went out and I found the funding to take young people to this because I thought it would be important. That mini zine that we did, nobody paid me to do that or told me to do that. I just knew that I have these connections. I like making art.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. And people here are doing that all the time. Like
It's
finding their skill and making it happen.
That kind of work, I think the KOR, like, by bringing more people, it's good because it, like, you create a ripple effect, I guess, over time is what the goal, I think, is kind of you want to invoke that pride in everybody over, you know, because you're not going to do it with just, you know, you can yell till, you know, you're blue in the face, and that's when I find that's when people won't listen to you, you know, when you're really, you know, aggressive and too, like, there's a lot of people who are all over, who are like very passionate, you know, very passionate, strong-willed, big opinions, will go and, you know, and a lot of times not many people will listen to them, you know, because they're too aggressive. And so, and maybe somebody might argue with me and say, well, we're just, it's because, like, you got to be tougher. But I think it's like you have to also be, you know, you have to be make it inviting that you know, you want people to be involved in something like that. You know, you gotta, you know.
I think there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna say
definitely.
that. Like, you know, if using COP as an example, when we showed up to certain meetings, yeah, sure, we'd be like calm, collected, and for some of them, heck no. Like, I'm thinking of COP 15. I joined the West Coast Youth in a disruption of Trudeau's speech and a walkout. And even that, like, people took it as...
You were a part of that?
Yeah. Yeah,
nice.
we stood up. Kaya started to sing. We raised a banner. And that's because for them, in the West Coast, it's, you know, like you talked about the Seaway. And it was this horrible thing that happened. And it was gut-wrenching and still is to today. And in these other territories, these other nations, they're experiencing that right now. And so their movements in this day and age are maybe a little bit more, I don't know, in your face. Like, I'm thinking of the Wet'suwet'en.
Yes.
And, like, my friends were there too.
And
you
have to be. You have to be. Yeah.
And I think in that case, like, the anger is necessary and it's important. But coming back to what we said earlier, it's directed at the right place, you know? Like, they're not turning, like, I've heard my friends too, like, they have family members who are part of, like, the patrol for certain pipelines to make sure that they go off without a hitch. And those are people from their community. And they themselves are land protectors who are standing up against this. But they can be mad and they will tell those people off. But at the end of the day, that's still their community, you know? That's what they'll tell me. But they direct the majority of their anger at the real enemy, which is, for them, the government of BC, the RBC Bank, all of these colonial entities. So, I don't know, I guess there's an idea of taking that anger, placing it the right direction, you know? So not at each other.
Harnessing it.
Harnessing it. You
have to harness it, Wow.
Light and breezy.
Light and breezy. That was, well, there's so many different things to it, like, I don't, you're gonna end this and I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that, you know what I mean? Like, but
It's an ongoing conversation.
it's ongoing. We'll have to reconvene again one day, hopefully soon. But is there anything I missed? Anything we want to touch on before we wrap it up?
If you're interested in any of the projects that I've mentioned, shoot me a message.
Yeah.
Open for that.
I'll look at the camera. Just kidding.
I don't even remember which. Oh, that one.
Yeah. You're like, yeah.
People listening are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's a camera.
Well, like the environment office and
yeah,
stuff like that.
reach out at the environment office, or, I'm always fine with people reaching out to me as well.
Yeah.
Send me a Facebook message.
And you mentioned the thing about the protected sites. Is that like...
Yeah, so that's a whole conversation. If you're interested and you want to be a part of
Yeah.
that conversation, definitely shoot me a message.
Yeah.
You can email me too at work. It's my name, Carlee, Carlee .loft at mck.ca. That's the Kipo emails.
Good, nice plug.
Yeah.
Good plug.
Again, I'm talking as me, not Kipo, but also Kipo projects.
Yeah. Well, and then there's so many other things too. I know that you're involved in that. I was like even the stuff with like the whole Palestine thing. That's a whole.
Yeah,
that could probably take up a whole like.
I'll do a quick plug. If you're somebody who is feeling really frustrated or even just want to learn more about what's happening and why so many Indigenous people are speaking out for Palestine, like I'm open to those questions too. Maybe just find me on Facebook and my work email.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, and I did want to like talk about it, but I just kept like forgetting.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We're also there's a group of us from Kahnawà who are organizing, and by organizing I mean we hosted an event where there was Palestinian young people and elders who came to the community, and we shared songs and dances and food and stories, and it was a beautiful night. And we're hoping to do more. Yeah,
something like similar to that again. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, keep in touch. You know who to contact if you need to. You want to get involved somehow in whatever that looks like. But no, Carlee, was good. It was a good chat. Yeah. All right. That's it. That's good.